Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 191 of the J Situation Podcast. I'm recording this on December 12th, 2023. How are all you wonderful folks doing? Yeah, we're in the home stretch for Christmas, fellas. That's right. We're so close. Yeah, it's about to be vacation time. That's what I'm talking about, man. Let's go. Yeah, I hope a lot of you have some time planned off with your friends or your loved ones, maybe just with yourself. That's okay. Yeah, take time for yourself at least if you can. It's important, believe me. You got to have some kind of break. You'll go crazy if you don't. So we have sort of an interesting episode today. First up, some really incredible data, honestly. That's right. Concurrently with this podcast episode, we are publishing a new white paper. Yes, the testing and analysis is of a silencer that is again from PTR, but this time it's 556 on the MK18. That's right. This is their VENT 3 silencer. Remember, you saw the VENT 2 on 9mm subgun, right? We tested that. Now, this is the VENT 3 on 556. Boy, howdy. Dude, you're going to want to buckle up for it. I have to say, it's wild, guys. It really is. So we're going to go through the introductory discussion of that article today, per typical, and we'll save the technical discussion for next time. Okay? Sound good? Also, on today's episode, silencer flash reduction. That's right. And why would we talk about this now? Well, because Surefire RC3. That's why. We got a ton of messages due to something that Surefire posted about on social media yesterday. And so we're going to address this all at once in typical, efficient PEW Science fashion right here on the podcast. Figure that would be really easy. And I think that will be good for everyone involved, especially for consumers. And we'll just kind of get off on the right foot and make sure that people understand what's going on. I got so many dang questions. I was like, okay, this definitely needs a podcast topic. We'll talk about Flash. It'll be so cool. We'll talk about some cool Flash physics and we'll learn together, okay? And so if you are listening on YouTube, don't forget you have timestamps for all of the topics down there in the video description, just like the podcast app listeners have. So the world is your oyster. If you'd like to skip around and do things, you're free to do that. And that being said, I'm going to take a moment right now to tell you about the gracious sponsors that make this podcast possible. That's right, because the J Situation Podcast is proudly sponsored by Legion Athletics. I am telling you right now, I took half a scoop of their Pulse pre-workout, as I typically do before I record these episodes, and that blood orange flavor, baby, that's what I'm talking about. Let's go. Because nothing you do, exercise, sports, anything in life is worth doing without consistency. That's right. You have to do it all the time if you want to be good at it. And Legion Athletics can help. They got whey protein, pre-workout, post-workout. They don't have everything you need, but they have a lot of it, okay? Visit legionathletics.com. There's a link in the show notes. Code word PEW Science to save 20% off of your first order. And you keep using that code for double loyalty points every time you buy from them. You're going to get a net 10% off everything going forward with points using that code. Get strong. It's important. legionathletics.com. It's awesome. And this episode is also brought to you by Top Gun Range Houston. That's right. They're pretty cool, man. If you're in the Houston area, even if you're just passing through on a business trip and you say, I have some time, I'm going to go shoot some guns. They're worth go check them out, man. 15-lane indoor range. And it's pretty nice. In addition to the largest firearm rental fleet in the entire state of Texas, you can rent pistols and rifles and shotguns and machine guns, and now you can rent silencers. That's right. The NFA weight got you down. Don't know really what to expect. You've looked at the data, but you want to see how the silencer feels on the gun? Go rent it at Top Gun Range. That's right. You can check out their inventory on their website at topgunrange.com, and you can also find them on Instagram at Top Gun Range. That's right. And this episode is brought to you by High-End Armament Technologies. That's right, Heat, a dealer of exactly that. High-end arms and accessories. They have significant longevity in the exotic armament game. That's right. Machine gun, NFA, lasers, infrared sighting systems, all kinds of crazy stuff, night vision, thermal. anything you need that's hard to find, looking for something, you just can't find it anywhere else, Robert and his crew at Heat, they're going to help you out. Check them out at highendarms.com, on Instagram at highendarms, and they even have a Facebook page, which is, you guessed it, High End Arms. I hope they can help you folks out if you need it, okay? And this episode is brought to you by Silencer Shop. As always, you can use their kiosk, do your fingerprints and photos electronically, and in turn, you cut down on errors, you simplify your silencer purchasing process, you get a money-back guarantee. It's pretty good. No transfer fees, no paperwork errors, just you and your silencer with no drama. It truly is silencer ownership simplified. Did you know that Silencer Shop is the largest distributor of silencers in the world, and they trust PEW Science for all their data and analysis? Isn't that cool? I think it's cool. And finally, and most importantly, this podcast is brought to you by the PEW Science Laboratory. That's right. I am the technical director of the lab, and in the interest of public education, the lab sponsors this podcast and runs a public research effort which continues to push the silencer industry forward one test at a time with your help. That's right. Visit pewscience.com for the suppression rating. It's the simplest and most accurate hearing-safe rating for suppressed small arms. It's based on true human inner ear response of the entire gunshot from before combustion takes place all the way until all the combustion has gone out of the silencer. It's pretty cool. PEW Science is the home of the silencer sound standard. There are 7 sections. It's the most in-depth and accurate silencer data and analysis in the world. It's all available to the public 24/7 at pewscience.com. And you can support this podcast. You can support PEW Science. You can support all the public testing we do for you folks by joining with a membership at pewscience.com. That's where the rubber meets the road. That really, really helps. But if you can't swing that, that's okay. You can make a one-time donation at the donate feature on the review page of the podcast page, because every little bit helps. And, something that's free, doesn't cost you anything. You can give the podcast a good rating on Spotify or iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. Hit that like and subscribe button on YouTube to let folks know that silencers and guns are awesome. We can help to normalize the use of suppressed small arms for the general populace, and it'll be great. Okay, that's what I think. So I have 2 topics prepared for you today. The first is topic 1, Sound Signature Review 6-135, the PTR VENT 3 on the 556 Mark 18. This is the introductory discussion for this white paper. It's published concurrently with this episode. Man, these low back pressure wars are heating up. It's a very interesting time in silencer history. Which technologies demonstrate the highest degree of efficacy? I don't know. Do you? I don't know. I think I have an idea. Okay, it's cool. Topic 2, the Surefire SOCOM556-RC3. Again, PEW Science will be testing it due to extremely popular demand from members and the public. That's how that's going to work. The test specimen has been acquired, so that's good for you to know. In the meantime, we need to talk about flash. That's right, and it's topical due to what I mentioned before. A recent Surefire social media post highlighting the flash reduction phenomenology of the system, or lack thereof, in certain configurations. So we'll go into that. Okay, so topic 1 is going to kick off at a time of 8 minutes and 33 seconds. Okay. Topic 1, Sound Signature Review 6-135, the PTR VENT 3 on the 556 Mark 18. This is the introductory discussion. Oh my goodness gracious, what is going on? Here we go again. First off, I just want to reiterate something I said when we examined the performance of the PTR VENT 2 on the MP5 back in white paper 6-131. You remember that? I remember that. It was published on the 1st of November. I said something to the effect of, I did not have PTR making a 3D printed high flow rate silencer with extreme efficacy in the subsonic ammunition suppression regime on my 2023 bingo card. I said something like that. And I was not throwing shade at PTR. I just never would have guessed this really in a million years. And I don't think you would have either, frankly, right? So now we're in early to almost mid-December. And I'm telling you, again, not to sound like a broken record, but again, we now have PTR demonstrating that their VENT series not only has legs in subsonic ammo land, but can absolutely crush in supersonic rifle land. Okay, and not only supersonic rifle, Mark 18 short barrel rifle. Okay, and not only at the muzzle, but also at the ear, and in a way that literally nobody has seen before. Literally. So this is new technology as applied to consumer silencers in the United States. Okay, it is. And even though there are drawings and people have messed with doing things like this is the first time I've personally seen something like this work as well in a consumer product in this market. Okay? And again, just like I said last time, I'm pretty sure I said this last time, if we hadn't tested it, I wouldn't have believed it. We're just getting to that point, guys. It's like what's Missouri, the show me state? Is that Missouri where it's like, I think they call it the show me state because they're like, I don't believe you can do that. And the guy's like, yeah, show me. I think that's what isn't that weird? I think that's what they do. Anyway, just, you get the point, right? So this is real. It's here. And you really need to look at this data, guys. This is only the introductory discussion today because the article is being published with the podcast. So remember, I give you a full week to digest it before we dive deep. I want you to have some time with it, okay? But I'm telling you, the low back pressure silencer wars are heating up, and PTR has come to play in a big way. And really, when you look at this, you almost should have forecasted this. All of you, really. Why? Why would I say that? I say that because we already showed you subsonic ammunition performance, guys. If a high flow rate system is working with subsonic ammunition as intended, people should really pay attention. Because typically, from what we've seen, the opposite usually happens. Typically, you use higher pressure and duration to exercise primary mechanisms of suppression in high flow rate designs. And the subsonic suppression suffers as an afterthought. It just so happens in this hybrid design system from PTR, they've adapted it to multiple combustion regimes. And that's pretty cool. Okay? So far, you have them really coming to play on the MP5 with objectively ridiculous superior performance on the MP5. And then you see this on the 556 Mark 18 with the highest degree of overall suppression performance ever showcased publicly by this lab. I'm telling you, that's right. PTR is hitting the leaderboard here, and not by a little bit. They're not punching up by a tad. Not by a little bit, dude. This is like, you're going to see the suppression rating when I publish this article in the morning. You're going to see the suppression rating. You're going to be like, that's on the Mark 18. What? I'm like, I know, dude. I know. I'm telling you, this is 2023. What's up? It's crazy. Now, the silencer is a little bit longer. Okay, that's true. But it's not super big. Okay, and it's certainly not heavy. Guys, and I purposefully asked the engineer himself that designed it. He told me this is rated for automatic fire on a 10.3 inch barrel for 120 rounds with a 10-minute cooldown period as a titanium silencer. 120 rounds full auto out of a Mark 18 with 10-minute cooldown. And they're saying that's fine. Guys. Okay. How many of you shoot 120 rounds full auto sustained and don't have time to take a 10-minute cooldown? Right? And titanium. So, look, we haven't tested flash out of the silencer yet, but I will say this, especially given what I'm going to talk about in the next topic with the Surefire. I will say this. It's likely that the flash suppression from this PTR VENT 3 is not terrible. It's likely it's not terrible, guys. Just based on how the silencer works. Just based on how it works. So, and you guys need to read this article. Yeah, this is a big monkey wrench, I think. This is a big it's a big monkey wrench, and I think industry wide, technology wise, I think it's a monkey wrench. There are a few technologies really disrupting things in rifle silencers right now and in silencers in general. And I would say those technologies that are being really disruptive, it's the flow-through technology from Huxworks, it's the surge bypass from CAT, and now I would say it's definitely the purposely induced porosity, the PIP technology from PTR. Purposely induced porosity used in a hybrid design configuration like PTR is doing, it's really demonstrating a very high degree of performance efficacy, guys. It just is. It's just working very well, and this is showing things that are possible that are not strange. It's just showing things that people should have known, and the great thing is that this is real. It's not theoretical anymore. Okay, and it's most certainly not a prototype or something like that. This is real technology in multiple products that are actually available or going to be available. And the really awesome thing, and you saw this before, PEW Science isn't the only entity showing you this. Okay, they've been letting people shoot these things at shows. Okay, both the Vent 2 on the MP5, which we've talked about ad nauseum, and this Vent 3 on the 556. Okay, so here we are. Some very interesting things for you to take in here that I'm telling you. Check out the article. We try to include the pertinent things you need to think about with regard to the performance and kind of explain what we're seeing in the performance that differentiates it from other silencers in this regime. I think right away, when you see the waveforms, you'll be able to tell something is pretty special. And in fact, I have my draft. I'm not finished with it quite yet. I have my draft pulled up, and when you do, and I know this is not a technical discussion, but real quick, when you do look at the fingerprint in Figure 1, you're going to see something that is really interesting. You're going to see a sequence of events that at an amplitude that you're not used to seeing. And you're going to be like, that's a clear delineation at a very low amplitude. Interesting. That's 556, really? And then you realize it's happening at the flow rate it's happening at. You're going to be like, are you serious? And I'm like, I'm absolutely serious. Serious as a heart attack. I'm telling you guys, you're living in the future right now. It's there. The data is irrefutable. It's amazing to look at. Okay. And something special. So you say, is 2023 the time for hybrid designs to shine? Is 2023 the time for hybrid designs to shine? It would appear so. Yes. I mean, this research journey is incredible. From original HXQD flow through. Veteran podcast listeners will remember my initial skepticism there to that pure flow through. From that original HXQD Helix flow through to the flow technology from Huxworks, to Hyperion stuff from CGS, to the early time venting in the RC series from Surefire, going back over a decade, watching that unfold and us understanding that, to the Liberty Precision Machine stuff, taking lessons learned, making a new silencer, to silencer code with the Velos, to the surge bypass technology from CAT, to the forward flux technology from SIG that we've showcased. All of these things a lot of these folks are doing things differently, at least in certain parts of their designs, purposefully. They're no longer just carbon copying entire designs of simple cones. We're purposefully adding features to get closer to the grail of combined silencer and weapon systems, guys. Suppress small arm weapon systems. Why would you manipulate flow rate unless you were concerned with system performance, holistic system performance? Okay, so I ask you again, is 2023 the time for hybrid designs to shine? Yes. We have consistent pedigree examination of all of these technologies, and some of them are fighting for pole position now, aren't they? It's incredible. It's completely incredible. With the diligence we've pursued to examine these things, with all of your help, it's paying dividends. Okay, so please check out the article. We'll be back next week to speak about it technically. I'm telling you, you're not going to want to miss this, dude. I will walk through everything technically with you at that time. In the meantime, what I want you to do, I want you to digest it. I want you to look at the physics. There's a lot to look at. Frankly, the performance metrics are stellar here. They're stellar. And look, this is, okay, let's be real. Come to Jesus moment. This is not going to be an easy thing to deal with in the market. I'm just being frank with you. PTR came to play. Buckle up. And huge monumental thanks to PTR for trusting our laboratory to perform this work. If you think I'm excited to tell you about how this stuff works, imagine how excited they are to show this stuff to people, guys. I hear that they're having a lot of fun letting people shoot this stuff at these demo events they're doing. They had a lot of people shooting these silencers, guys. It's pretty neat stuff. It's a great time to be into silencers. I'm happy to characterize this stuff for you folks at PTR. I know you're listening. Thank you. I do appreciate it. To have a client like you is very humbling. It's awesome. So, and this leads me. This is a good segue. So topically, I want to ask you, listening, all of you, what happens in a hybrid silencer design when you change mount types? Are certain technologies more sensitive to silencer mount types than others? I have told you time and time again that the answer is yes. I've told you many times, and I've explained it many times. So why would I ask you that again? Because of Surefire. Let's move into topic 2 at a time of 22 minutes and 12 seconds. Okay, this is going to be a fast podcast today, which frankly is good because I need to finish that PTR article before the morning. It's fairly done, but wasn't it Ernest Hemingway that said the first draft of everything is garbage? I'm paraphrasing. He probably used a vulgar word instead of garbage, but one second. It's true. Topic 2, the Surefire SOCOM556-RC3. PEW Science is going to test this due to, I mean, okay, let me back up. Let me just kind of tell you guys, I have seen some crazy talk on the internet regarding PEW Science, actually, regarding Surefire, which is really odd. Just so you guys know, like, Surefire is not a PEW Science client. We've never discussed testing efforts at all. It's just not something we just don't have that relationship. Like we have a great working, like, professional relationship, just like we're cordial with each other, but like we don't, they're not a PEW Science client. So all of the Surefire testing that you've seen on pewscience.com in the public research pedigree has been accomplished with member funding because the Surefire silencers are so prolific that the data utility was extremely high, and the demand for the data from our contributing members and the public is extremely high. So that's why you see a lot of Surefire data on the website. Okay. And we also have a lot of other data for companies that are very popular. For example, for Dead Air, for Rugged, all that stuff is all with member funding. Okay. So I just want to make sure you guys understand that there's no secret. There's no conspiracy. It is what it is. Okay. So that's it. And so we got a lot of interest about the RC3, given that our RC2 research has spread worldwide, particularly the muzzle device research. It was groundbreaking. I mean, no one, including Surefire, had ever shown it to anybody. And so when we did that, it was very important and pivotal for the industry. And so it really spurred a lot of interest in PEW Science data and analysis for future Surefire systems. So when the RC3 was released, immediately we got a barrage of interest. And so right now in my hands, I have a RC3, unfired, brand new in the box. It was sent from a PEW Science member for analysis. That's right. it takes a village, and we have one, so it will be tested, okay? And so that's the whole backstory on that. That's literally the entire story. After the last podcast episode, when I spoke about potentially testing the RC3 on the Knights Armament Upper with the PRT silencers as like a Surefire versus Knights showdown, like Sunday, like a Surefire versus Knights thing. Like, people came out of the woodwork. We were offered RC3s from all kinds of people, and one guy who has sent us multiple things was like, "Hey man, I got an RC3 right here. You want it?" And I was like, "Send it over, sir. I'll have it back to you with 2 shakes of a lamb's tail." No, actually, I'm going to take way longer than that, but nonetheless, it's just on loan. He didn't give it to us. This is just on loan, and then we'll send it back to him when we're finished with it. So, I wasn't even going to speak about the RC3 at all until we tested it, because it's stupid a lot of times to speak about silencers without testing them. But I do realize that we don't operate in a vacuum here at PEW Science, and this podcast reaches a lot of people, and we have found that a lot of people ask us for help understanding a lot of different things. So, it's interesting because it's not often that we're literally prompted to have a podcast topic discussion directly from an industry statement that someone makes. Surefire social media, or whoever runs the Surefire social media, they made a post yesterday highlighting the flash reduction phenomenology of the RC3, of its system, and the lack thereof when used in certain configurations. And ordinarily, like, okay, silencer company says something on social media, why are you talking about it on the podcast? And we usually don't. It's not really our thing. We're not a gossip mill. We're a laboratory, and we perform technical engineering analysis, and we explain that analysis. That's what we do. So again, we usually don't do this type of thing, but it does happen sometimes. For example, it happened, I think the last time we made a dedicated podcast topic about an industry statement, it was the CAT press release. And it was because of the unique nature of the situation. We had never seen anything like that. And we were given the press release, and we're like, okay, we're going to make a podcast topic because this is clearly going to shake things up a little bit. So as a lot of people turn to this podcast for silencer news, for like the cutting edge stuff they want to know about, we're like, you know what, we're gonna address that. So we did, and I think, in that case, I think people saw how that stuff was playing out, and I think it was pretty fitting that we had announced that, right? So this RC3 situation is a little similar in that it's an industry statement that I personally feel it needs clarification and context to consumers, especially given all the questions that we've received. So what Surefire said about the RC3 was, and I'll just quote it. They said, it's come up recently that the RC3 may exhibit suboptimal flash performance with closed-tine muzzle devices. The RC3 was designed to operate optimally with Surefire SOCOM open-tine adapters, such as the 3-prong, the FH556-RC, the WarComp556-28, and it delivers unmatched flash reduction in this configuration. Gas flow dynamics in low back pressure suppressors are extremely complex and sensitive to the slightest change. As a result, the RC3 may have increased muzzle flash with closed-tine adapters and muzzle brakes. And they go on to list the muzzle devices. It's a closed-tine WarComp, and then a Surefire muzzle brake. It's really interesting, right? It's really interesting. So in the past, and I'll address this directly, without having tested it. That's what we're being asked to do. So in the past, I've told you that silencer mount choice seldomly influences external flash performance of a system with a silencer installed, right? Excuse me. And I told you that because it's 100% correct. It seldomly matters. The reason it seldomly matters is because most silencers have a primary flow direction. Okay, they just do. And changing a mount type, while it can change early time flow characteristics, seldomly changes gas orifice propagation at the distal end in a way that changes the shock dynamics meaningfully. Okay, and so for you to understand this, I've heard criticism. Sometimes people say I'm talking over your head, and I'm going to try to keep this as simple as I can. Okay, but I have to explain some shock physics to you for you to understand this, and it's the only way. Because there's been a lot of talk and people aren't understanding what they're saying. So let's just get the physics out, and then you can tell your friends as a party trick or something. But at least you'll know, and you'll know why this most of the time doesn't matter at all, and why it apparently matters with the RC3. Because if what Surefire is saying is true, which I don't know that it is, I'm just taking them at their word. If what Surefire is saying is true, then I'll tell you why it would be true. Because what they're saying isn't crazy, and I'll tell you why. And this is a disclaimer before I go into this. Just because I'm saying how this works doesn't mean I'm saying what Surefire said is true or not true. I'm saying if what they said is true, this is physically what's happening. Okay? Deal? Because I don't want to be Jay said something was worse and it's no. Surefire said that they don't reduce flash as well with this silencer when you use closed-time devices. I'll explain how that could possibly happen. Okay. So let's talk about flash. All right, you ready? When you put a flash suppressor on the end of your barrel, how does it work? It changes the flow dynamics at the muzzle to reduce the temperature gradients across shock boundaries. Okay? And that reduces the propensity for reignition of fuel. Okay? That's the beauty of flash hiders, guys. They're really, really great, and they work really, really well. Flash hiders work really well. Remember, let's go deeper. The gas out of the gun barrel, okay, out of the muzzle, it's moving at supersonic velocity. Okay? Even if the projectile is subsonic, the gas pushing it's supersonic when it comes out. Okay? And I know that sounds crazy. Let me explain why. This is not water out of a garden hose. It's not, right? This is not water out of a garden hose. This is compressible flow. Okay? The gas is moving very fast and at very high pressure. Okay? When it comes out of the muzzle, what do we call that entering atmosphere? We can call this flow underexpanded jet flow. When flow expands or compresses, shock waves are formed. Okay? The specific type of expansion wave in this supersonic flow that's happening, you sometimes call it a shock fan. Okay? It's a Prandtl-Meyer expansion wave. You have there's a free jet boundary that is encapsulating your flow field. Okay? When you reflect off of this boundary back toward the center line, you create another Prandtl-Meyer wave. But this wave is in compression. Okay? When your waves converge, you are going to get a Mach disk. When the Mach disk crosses the flow boundary, the temperature in the boundary layer itself increases very rapidly due to this compression. Okay? When you induce compression very quickly like that, you get a rapid heating that it literally will auto-ignite fuel with an oxidizer. Okay? And so you might have unburnt propellant. You might have other things oxidizing in the ambient atmosphere around it too. Let's just, for the purpose of argument, let's say there's unburnt propellant, because it's likely that there is, especially on this type of weapon. So what you're doing, you're igniting. You're creating auto ignition. Okay, that is muzzle flash. Okay, in a nutshell, that's muzzle flash. Like when you shoot a gun, that's what happens right outside the barrel, and that's the flash you see, dude. You are literally auto igniting fuel with an oxidizer. You're literally auto igniting fuel. That's what muzzle flash is. Okay, in atmosphere, due to shock propagation across a boundary, compressing the medium, rapidly heating to the auto ignition temperature. You got me? That's what muzzle flash is, primarily. Okay, cool. So when you put a flash hider on the barrel, and there's a lot of different types, they all work very similarly. They're disrupting your mock disc. They're changing the shock dynamics, so you're not focusing the discs with the same strength to provide auto ignition temperature across the boundary. Okay, the flash hiders they're mock disc disruptors. They prevent wave convergence in a certain way. They reduce the propensity for rapid heating in jet nozzle flows. That's what a flash hider does. That's what a flash hider does on the end of a barrel. It doesn't hide flash. Flash hiders don't hide flash. They prevent the flash from happening. Okay? You with me? You understand? They're not hiding anything. They're just making it not happen. Okay? Okay. So, what happens when you put a silencer on a barrel? What happens? Or let me say this a different way. What happens when you put a silencer over your flash hider on your barrel? What have you done? Well, now you're restricting gas flow out of the muzzle orifice now, aren't you? Your gas flow to atmosphere has completely changed. What does your silencer do to the gas flow that comes to atmosphere now? What does it do? If you're curious, you can literally get a quantitative view of that exact phenomenon in every single white paper published on pewscience.com. Right? Because you can see it in the free field. You can see the pressure history in the free field. Gas is coming out slower. It's coming out slower than it does from an unsuppressed muzzle orifice. Right? You've seen like the unsuppressed waveforms where it's like a direct shock all of a sudden, and then you see like the waveforms in the silencer test where there's a ramped rise time. Yeah, you see the impulse accumulation is like happening slower at lower amplitude. Right, it's restricting the gas flow out of the gun because you have put a silencer on it. Cool, you understand that. Awesome. Gas is coming out slower. It's coming out a lot slower. But what happens? Is there still some supersonic flow? Absolutely there is. Absolutely, there's still some supersonic flow out of that silencer. Absolutely, there is. Okay. So can you still have flash out of the end of the silencer, guys? Absolutely. Absolutely, you can still have flash outside the end of a silencer. When do you notice it more out of the end of a silencer? When do you notice flash more? Okay, just for the sake of argument, pretend the ammo's going to flash. You don't have flash suppressant in the powder that's changing the combustion. Just forget, you don't have any of that special additives that's taking up your powder composition. Pretend it's just regular ammo, no flash suppressant, okay? Keep ammo constant. So in this example, keep your ammunition constant. When do you notice flash more out of the end of a silencer on a rifle? There's two scenarios. First, you're going to notice it more when the barrel's shorter. Why? Well, there's more unburnt propellant at a higher pressure and temperature. Right? Okay, cool. Why does that matter? Well, it's easier to auto-ignite when you have way more of it, right? Shock waves across the flow boundaries causing compression that raises the temperature to reach that auto-ignition temperature, and you have way more unburnt propellant, and you're way hotter already. So what happens? You're going to get more flash. Okay. That's one case. What's another case where you notice flash more out of the end of a silencer? When the flow rate's higher. Right? Why? Why would you notice flash more when the flow rate was higher? Well, the pressure's higher and the temperature's higher. Why? Why would the pressure and temperature be higher when the flow rate's higher? Well, you had a shorter time duration for turbulence generation in the silencer, didn't you? What does turbulence do? What's one of the things that turbulence does? It makes heat transfer super efficient. The increase in turbulence is directly proportional to heat transfer efficacy. So, when your flow rate's higher and your gas comes out of the silencer faster, you have less time to do the work you need to do to the flow. Physics. You guys already know this stuff, dude. You all already know this. All right? You just need to remember, okay? So if you're starting at a higher initial condition of pressure and temperature, you're running hot. You're running real hot, guys, with a high flow rate, okay? All right, so I just told you, shorter barrel, that's one thing. Higher flow rate, that's another thing. Those two things are going to fight you when it comes to flash out of a silencer. Okay, you feel me? Got it. So, and I know this is taking a long time to explain, but it's complicated. But when you're done with this, you're going to be an expert. It's cool. So why again, let's go back. Why again did I tell you mount doesn't matter for flash when you put a silencer on the mount? Why did I tell you that? Well, it's because the pressure and temperature gradient coming out of the silencer oftentimes doesn't vary that much due to the mount change. It oftentimes doesn't make a difference. You know, usually the silencers will work pretty similarly, and a lot of silencers quench flash pretty well in general, okay? Look, take, for example, a Surefire SOCOM556-RC3. Look at the RC2. You guys have seen an RC2, okay? And we'll pick on it because it's easy and familiar. We're not going to pick on it, but we'll use it as an easy example, okay? You ever looked at like the distal orifice of an RC2? Like the hole in the end? Like where the bullet comes out? You ever looked at that? What does it look like? I'll tell you what it looks like. It's a cone. It's a diverging cone. It's a cone for a reason. It's a cone because that cone changes expansion out of the jet nozzle. You can lower the pressure and temperature with gas expansion, even with the origin bore diameter of the silencer, by having a divergent cone. Yeah, I know, wild. Remember the 3-prong and the brake and the war comp and the blah, blah, blah with the RC2? What happened when you changed those mounts with the RC2? Besides leaking gas with the war comp and putting the blast pressure at your face with an extra shock load and having a bad time. Besides all that, what happened? Nothing, really. Not much. Not much happened. The brake and the 3-prong pretty much work similarly in a lot of ways on the RC2. Now, are there some flow changes? Absolutely, dude. There absolutely are. There absolutely are some flow changes. Are there some distal orifice flow gradient changes that greatly affect how the shocks are propagating outside of the cone to induce flash? No. Not when you change them out in an RC2. Not really. And you know what? If there is, I've never seen anyone present anything that dictates that happens. I've never seen the data. If there is, show me. I'd love to see it. I'd love to see the data, but I haven't been presented with that. One second. So, enter the RC3. Got an RC3 in inventory. It's right in front of me. Again, shout out to the PEW Science member to remain nameless. He shipped it to us, brand new in the box here. It's shiny inside. Literally, the baffles are reflecting light. They're shiny. It hasn't been fired, which is interesting. I would think Surefire would test fire their silencers like they used to. They used to do that. I guess they don't do that anymore. So I looked at the silencer just briefly. I've only had it out of the box like twice. When I got it to put it in inventory, double check serial number and everything, and then tonight when I looked at it, what has Surefire done with the RC3? They have kept something super common to the RC2 at least. They kept the cone geometry in the primary orifice. I noticed that right away. But it's way deeper. Their cone's way deeper, dude. Why? And I don't know if I'm violating ITAR right now or not, but I think we're way past that at this point with what I've talked about on this podcast. But why do you think they have a deeper cone here? I didn't design this silencer, but I am willing to bet the reason the cone is deeper is because the pressure's higher and they need more expansion distance. Oh, snap. That's right. Look, are there better ways to hide flash at the distal end of a silencer? Absolutely, there are. There's way better ways. But I'm not Monday morning quarterbacking here. I'm just saying. I'm just telling you why they did it. Okay, that's why that looks like that. Okay, literally. I mean, and if I'm wrong, please tell me. But I see no other physical reason why it would be a deeper cone. It's a deeper cone because they needed to make it deeper. To make it work mo better, because the pressure and temperature is higher, so you need a longer jet nozzle to lower that pressure through expansion. That's just physics, right? So what else? Okay, we talked about the cone, done. What else? What else is on the end of the RC3 here? Well, there's a vent array. Oh, let's count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. At least in sections. I don't know if those are stiffeners or not. I don't know if there's really 6 sections, maybe just six evenly spaced stiffeners, whatever this is. So it's a vent array nonetheless. Doesn't matter why those sections are there, just it is an array. It's a continuous circumferential array. What does that mean in plain English? You vent along the front outside edge of the end cap, guys. That's where it's venting, besides the primary bore with the cone, remember? Where is it venting from? It's venting from annular space. Where does the gas that's filling that space come from? Muzzle blast. How does the muzzle blast get into the annulus? Vents, baby, in the blast chamber. You can feel them with your finger. What happens with the gas once it's in the annulus? Does it have to flow over arduous paths? Or is it a direct vent system? Where have you heard this terminology before? Where have you seen direct annular gas flow with direct distal venting without more turbulence generation? I mean, you really don't see it too often anymore, do you? In most hybrid designs, you're inducing at least some kind of added turbulence to spur additional heat transfer once you get in the annulus, right? In most of them. I mean, in most of the designs, you really are. You would be smart to do that. It would behoove you. It would, and again, let's not violate ITAR, but it would behoove you to create additional turbulence in your annulus. Yeah, you want any flow exiting to be lower temperature and pressure to the extent possible, don't you? Come on, guys. So back to the RC3. So down to brass tacks. They say, and I don't know this, I'm just going off what Surefire says. Again, this is Surefire's words. They say with a 3-prong or an open tine flash hider, it delivers unmatched flash reduction. Okay, that's a very strong and aggressive statement. Fine, awesome. I'm not saying that's true or false. I'm just saying that's a strong statement, which it's a very strong statement. Unmatched. Okay. Now, they're also saying if you used a closed-tie muzzle device, flash reduction suffers. Okay, fine. True or false? Fine. Why would it be? Of all the things to change flash performance of a silencer, why would it be the muzzle device? They have to be playing traffic cop in early time. It's the only explanation, right? It has to be. There's way too much going on in the silencer for mount choice to influence flash unless one thing happens. There's only one thing that can happen. You're letting gas out too early, or rather, too much in a direction you didn't want. The proportionality is off. The proportionality. They've changed the proportionality. And I would venture to guess, closed-tie muzzle devices, and they're saying a break too, which, okay. They must be forcing venting proportion between the annulus and the main bore into an imbalance. So you're probably getting a higher proportion through one of them. And it's got to be it, dude. And if I had to guess, this is really dangerous to guess because I don't know. I haven't modeled it. I haven't tested it. If I had to guess, it's probably the annular preference that's getting too high, maybe. I don't know. If you go direct path vent land, right? You must ramp up the gas velocity and temperature, right? If your exit geometry can't deal with that, like what if like it went through the deep cone and the deep cone couldn't deal with it because the cone wasn't deep enough or something? Or like what if it went through the annular exits and they just did not have enough expansion room at all, and they just could not expand enough. And the gas coming, yeah, they had a lot of expansion room into they had a lot of volume in the annulus, but what if like it was just so hot and fast, they really needed to expand more and they just didn't have enough time, and you got a sudden expansion that was way too fast at the end and not a long enough duration, and your shocks are too violent. Maybe you're just not creating enough expansion prior to final exit of the underexpanded jet to free air, and maybe you vent that outer circumference. Maybe it doesn't have a long enough wall length past your initial orifice throat. What happens? Maybe you just get secondary burning. You're auto igniting. You're getting those Mach discs, and you can't get rid of those Mach discs, so you keep auto igniting fuel, guys. What would that do? It would give you fireballs, like repeatedly. If what Surefire is saying is true, when I look at this design, yeah, that would definitely do it. If you have an imbalance in your flow and you don't have and you're not disrupting that shock propagation, you're done, and there's nothing you can do. I don't know. I'm just saying, maybe those Mach discs are getting out of control. You're igniting things left and right. Your flow field got too violent. That little traffic cop in the blast chamber didn't do his job early on. So maybe the road less traveled became the road more traveled. Maybe, I don't know. I'm just telling you the physical mechanism of what could happen and why muzzle device would change the flash generation of the RC3. In this particular silencer, okay? And it is a somewhat oversimplified explanation to say that if you vent through your annulus too quickly, you may get fireballs. That's an oversimplified explanation for a high flow rate silencer, okay? But it should be said that the way you can prevent flash in the silencer design like this would be to be forcing more blast through a primary path, or not necessarily through a primary path, or just forcing it through a path in which turbulence and heat transfer is maximized. Okay, maybe you feed it all to a downstream extinguisher array or something, right? Something that can disrupt the shockwave so you don't get excessive compression along the boundaries of the flow field, and you just prevent auto ignition. Okay, if your flow balance is off, In other words, if excess blast load vents through the annulus, for example, again, I don't know if that's the case in the RC3, but it could be. If that happens, you got a one-way ticket to Flashtown, USA, population U, baby. That's it. You just didn't have enough time to induce enough heat transfer through enough turbulence because the turbulence just wasn't there. Maybe if your annulus is smooth like a baby's bottom, maybe it's too fast, too furious. Maybe you shoot your wad early in time. You vented too fast without doing enough work. Maybe the annular flow wasn't ready for prime time. I don't know. Could you use some cheaper insurance? What's the cheap insurance here? What? You put something at the end with a distal vent geometry. It's Monday morning quarterbacking, but you know what I mean? Again, there's another theory that's related to this. There's another theory. What if? Oh, riddle me this. Think about this. This will break your brain. What if it's that you force too much flow through one direction and you got some kind of shock disruption from the annulus in a different way, and then the two flows are converging in a weird way? Like, what if your flows are converging in a weird, like, I don't know. Isn't that weird? Like, there's like so many different ways that gosh, you'd think they would have tested this. I mean, it's not hard to test it, but here we are. We have not tested this yet. All of this is basically the working theory of why Surefire said what they said. I bet you a beer that their venting just runs wild if you don't if you don't focus the blast enough or something in the blast chamber. That's probably what's happening. I don't know. Maybe you're what if it spreads too much to the walls, you're going straight to jail. Believe it or not, straight to jail. No, I don't know if that's I don't know that that's true, but I don't know. Maybe the three-pronged focusing helps you here. Again, it's definitely interesting. It's definitely a shock problem outside the silencer. I just don't know if it's it's got to be a proportionality flow field problem. You've changed the timing between primary flow and annular flow, and one of them is way too hot, and you just can't. You're auto igniting too quick, and you're disrupting the flow field outside, and your shock diamonds are probably just out of control, and that's just. I'm sorry, them's the breaks, kid. It's interesting. Remember when I told you that you might get different performance with different mounts in some silencers? Like, and we proved time and time again. I mean, I wasn't saying it for my health. It's just physics. With regard to flash, you shouldn't get that. But it just, this design, dude, this is just physics. And you know what? Silencers or not, physics doesn't wait on you to make sure you're happy or sad because of something you buy or something you design. You got to check it. You got to check it out first. You got to do your due diligence, whether you're a designer or a consumer. Man, I don't know how you'd miss something like this, but anyway, maybe I don't know. Just looking at it, I'm like, okay, I guess I wouldn't even know. I mean, how many people would have even known? I guess you'd have to shoot it, because just by looking at it, you'd think, well, they probably looked that already, but I don't know. I haven't shot it yet, so I guess we'll find out. It is funny. Most of your silencers that you have, they're not going to care about this at all with regard to flash, because for example, you're not going to change the flash performance of an OSS or a Huxworks silencer by changing the mount, dude. Like that, you're going to change it with barrel length and silencer type and ammo type, sure, but you're not going to change it with the mount type. If you use the Huxworks mount, you're not going to change the flash performance of a CAT silencer with the mount type, or a CGS silencer with the mount type. Well, no, I say that with CGS, right? If you change the orifice entry location of a Hyperion and you have the vented end cap going, that'd be a little different. But that's a way more niche case than this Surefire thing, right? I'd say though, if you have to hastily vent, I'm just using that as an example term. I'm not throwing shade at anyone. If you have to hastily vent, I mean, if you have a higher propensity for high velocity, high temperature flow through a certain part of your design and you don't deal with that flow gradient at its terminal state, at the origin, exit to atmosphere, I think you're just going to have a bad time. You got to deal with your boundary conditions, guys. They're not mysterious. I looked at the Surefire RC. They're on the box. They're on the dang box. You can see it. The people at the gun shops, they look at the silencer. This is not magic beans. It's supersonic gas flow out of a jet nozzle, guys. It's compressible flow. All the dang rocket scientists, they've been doing it for a while, managing their shocks. They've been doing it. It's important. This isn't new science. I don't know. That's all I got, man. Everyone asks me, well, what's going on? It's like, there's a proportionality imbalance. Whether or not there's too much flow through the center or too much flow through the edge, there's too much flow through one of them. Compared with the other path, it's literally the only explanation that's possible. Okay, literally, because whether or not you're not able to disrupt the boundaries, through one of two of the paths, or one of your paths is overtaking the other, same result. So it's moot. The point would be moot. In practical terms, your proportionality is off, and that's it. In practical terms, it's a proportionality issue. Man, initial conditions and boundary conditions are important as heck, huh? Remember in school when like you're like a freshman in engineering school, or like screw that. Like you say you're like middle school or like high school in math or physics or something, and your teacher's like, hey, write down the problem statement on your piece of paper and then write down your assumptions. And then like as you progress through school, like they teach you more complex things. Like, okay, what are your initial conditions? When does time really start? What's the pressure at the beginning? Like you start to like really get into physics, and like you start to do these complex problems, and what do you start with? You always start with your assumptions. You write those down. Don't forget your assumptions. Don't forget that initial flow state. That blast chamber, that'll get you, dude. A lot of the magic in a lot of different silencers happens early on in the silencer, in the blast chamber. And a lot of people forget that. They do. Super important part. It's like it's not the same thing, but like you look at airplanes, like aircraft, like the wing is really important, right? I'm not saying it's the same thing as like the airplane wing is the same thing as like a silencer blast chamber, but what I'm saying is like it's really important part of it. And of course there's other really important parts of the silencer too, obviously at the end, like we've talked about today. But again, just remember, this is not easy, but we have the technology. Okay. I'll leave you with that. Shock boundaries are important. Don't neglect them. Don't compress your flow too quickly, or you're going to auto-ignite stuff. Okay. Go tell your wife or girlfriend that. She's like, what? Okay, so go check out that PTR VENT 3 research. It's on the website right now. And here's a homework assignment for you in the meantime. Homework assignment for this PTR stuff. Can anyone predict the flash suppression out of the PTR VENT series? Can anyone predict that? Do you think the PTR VENT series suppresses flash a lot, or do you think it suppresses flash a little? And why? Why do you think that? Why do you think it would suppress flash a lot or a little? Go look at the end of the PTR silencer when you see it. It's a good homework assignment, I think, for all of us, I think. Okay, so you got to keep in mind, I have not shot the PTR series tonight, so I don't know, but I have an idea. I have a theory. Go look at it, okay? It's gonna be fun. Wait until we start testing flash. Oh, we're gonna learn so much. It's gonna be awesome. Okay. So go check out the PTR data. We're gonna test this RC3. I'm gonna put this RC3 down. We're going to test the RC3 with all kinds of mounts to show flow gradients, because why not, right? It's going to be wild. PEW Science, baby. Be back next week with some killer PTR technical discussions. Stay safe out there. I will talk with you folks again soon. All right, bye.